Hey there, everybody. Welcome back to another episode of the Betting Pros NFL podcast. I'm your host, Dan Harris. With me, of course, is Matt Perrault. You can find us on Twitter at DanHarris80 and at Sports Talk Matt. Matt, how are you on this fine Thursday evening?
I'm rolling up my sleeves as we speak. Let's get to work here.
We need to get to
go.
work.
All right. This week sucks. That means we're going to have a great week.
Oh my God, I was legitimately thinking the same thing. I felt pretty good about the last couple of weeks, and we have just kind of been treading water and a little bit under treading water where we need to go. And now I feel terrible about it, so I'm ready to just go 5-0. But,
yes.
All right. Let's do our usual PSAs before we recap last week and get into this week's games. Discord, of course. Matt, how many? We're like pushing 1,000 at this point.
We're almost at 1,000. Yeah, we're about 950 right now for people who are on it. I mean, during football games, we're approaching 250, 300 people at a time that are on it. It's really cool because I figured out a feature that when I play prop bets, there's an @everyone feature.
Yes.
And I can send it out to everyone, so everyone sees the ads that I make, which I found that to be incredibly cool last night. So yes,
I'm aware because I have seen them come up, and I've been like, wait, what's going on? Is Matt trying to talk to me? Oh, no. He's just telling everyone in our Discord channel that he's got a prop bet, which is great. That's a great idea because, as you know, sometimes I'm the worst person ever. You guys know I do a ton of fantasy, especially on Sunday mornings. Sometimes I am too late and I don't get my props into Matt. So worst comes to worst, I'll put it on Discord and I'll @everyone so everybody knows it. If I don't get it to Matt by the time he does his YouTube stream at youtube.com/bettingpros. But anyway, you can go to join our Discord, bettingpros.com/chat. We are also giving away an AJ Brown helmet. So you can get a signed helmet. So you can get that as well. Again, bettingpros.com/chat. Second, our prop bet cheat sheet, bettingpros.com/props. Compare consensus projections to the available props in the market. Again, we're still tweaking it. We're still getting it up to date and everything like that, but you can go check it out. Offer some good ones. All right, so let's get to every game on this weekend. First, let's recap last week's. Once again, we have gone 3-2. We went 3-2 for like 6 weeks straight. Now we're 2-3 in back-to-back weeks, I believe. We are now 23-22, I believe. Overall, we're one game up. Whatever it is, 51.1%. Hit on the Ravens laying 2.5 to the Colts, which is a game that I liked that we switched in, thankfully, for the Chiefs game that we had settled on last week. And we also liked the Saints getting 4.5 from the Bucs, which we hit on. But we missed on the Seahawks getting 2.5 from the Bills. The Bills are like, our kryptonite, or Matt's kryptonite, that's for sure.
No,
the Cards
that's not true. Whoa. I made good money on the Bills betting against the Bills this year.
That's fair. That's fair. My bad. I just mean you hate them.
Yes,
the Cards laying 4.5 to the Dolphins and the Pats laying 7.5 to the Jets. Goodness gracious. We're not even going to talk about that Monday night game. So 384th out of 689. We've got a ways to go, but not in any way out of it at all at this point. We've got plenty of time to catch up, but we've got to get going now. So it's going to take a big week or 2 or 3. So let's get started right now with a week that I hate, which you hate, which we're going to go 5-0. So start us off. What's your number one pick?
All right, so I'm going to I went through and I tried to kind of game theory based upon the numbers for DraftKings.
Okay.
And so I have been getting caught because now that I'm in the Westgate and I'm in the DraftKings and I'm in the Circa, these numbers matter, right? At this point in the year, there's enough algorithms, there's enough information out there where the lines can be very, very sharp. This is where it gets very difficult. This is when the public loses their shirt. From this week 10 on, the NFL is very hard. So when there's line discrepancies, those are going to raise red flags to me. So the Bucs are 4.5 in our contest.
Yep.
They are 5.5, 6 in climbing as we roll here.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not saying it's a bad idea if you get to 7 or 6.5 to take the Panthers here plus the points. But in our contest, it's 4.5. It's below my hated 5. It's a bounce-back spot, and I believe the Panthers decided that they wanted to beat the Chiefs so badly that they would go and do anything to have the scalp that they could run around and say, Matt Rule in year 1 beat the defending champs on the road. Because Christian McCaffrey should have been on a pitch count last week. He wasn't. They forced him the ball so much that they got him hurt. So now, after changing their offense to fit in McCaffrey, they got to go back to having him not be there. I know that Bridgewater is a cover machine, but that pathetic effort by the Bucs, they're going to turn things around this week. I like the Bucs, even on the road, to lay it down on the Panthers. I'm going to lay the 4.5. Tampa minus 4.5.
Far and away my number one pick. Far and away. Like maybe the only game that I really was like, yep, this is one I absolutely want. I mean, if I'm poking a hole in it, it's just that Teddy Bridgewater covers. Teddy Bridgewater is the cover machine. It is what he does, but it just doesn't matter to me. You're buying low on the Bucs after that embarrassing performance. Tom Brady off a loss usually covers. As you mentioned about McCaffrey, he's out for this game. It's going to be Mike Davis, who again played really well for several games, but then he wore down. He played kind of poorly the last 3 games. So this is a no-brainer to me, absolutely, at 4.5. And you're right, the spread is rising, and that's a great point, Matt. When do the lines lock at the Circa and the other one?
When they come out, I mean, basically either Wednesday night or Thursday, based on COVID problems. So if there's big COVID issues, Circa and Westgate they can hold on to it sometimes to find out exactly who's playing. But mostly it's Wednesday or Wednesday afternoon, Thursday, same time as the DraftKings. There's just there's discrepancies in the numbers that are quite glaring. Like in the Circa of this, it's 5.5. Yeah. So it's 4.5. We're getting an extra point here.
Yeah.
There's
no brainer. On our bet analyzer, the spread right now is the consensus line is -6, and it's still overwhelmingly picked on the Bucs, 70%.
I think 7. You may talk me into the Panthers, but 4.5. I'm taking Tampa.
Yeah, 4.5 without that. Okay, so maybe we will agree. I'm coming in here, Matt, and I'm expecting us not to really agree on all of these just because it's so ugly. But you might, given the way your preface to this entire week, which is where the public's going to lose their shirt. Maybe you won't hate all of these. I really don't know. Let me see which one I want to start with here. Okay, I'll get one which I don't think you'll like, but we'll see about it. The 49ers getting 9.5 from the Saints. So here's number one. I think the Saints are going to be a very public play. If for no other reason, then of course, the very classic, they absolutely destroyed the Bucs, and the 49ers look like perhaps the worst team in football on Thursday night. Now, I realize you don't have Jimmy Garoppolo. I realize you don't have George Kittle, but Kyle Shanahan is a fantastic coach. He is going to figure out a way to improve the offense. You're going to get at least Brandon Ayuk back. Sounds like maybe Deebo Samuel will need another week. The running backs are going to need another week, but Jerick McKinnon is fine if he gets to work. I think Kendrick Bourne, who's currently on the COVID list, is probably going to be able to come off. And again, this just strikes me as a very huge overreaction to what happened last week. So I'd love it if it were at 10. The spread's actually down to 9 in our consensus lines, and the people in our bet analyzer are leaning towards the Saints, but it's ugly. But I like the 49ers getting 9.5 here.
You could pick all the board except one game, and this is the game you're choosing?
Yeah, that's correct. Right
you
here.
Want to bet on a backup quarterback, backup running back, backup offensive line, backup defensive line, backup secondary, and this is the pick against a team that just whipped and looked amazing against the Bucs.
Oh, so I'm sorry, just to be clear, are we supposed to be like, wow, that team just absolutely destroyed the Bucs after, by the way, nearly losing to the Bears? The Bears. Like, I'm not overreacting to a week. This is what I said. I knew you were going to hate this pick. I almost until you said the public.
I mean, look, I'm willing to listen. I'm willing to listen to it.
Go ahead.
Okay, I'm willing to listen to it and put it in the maybe category. I'm just saying, of all you have the board to play with. You have the whole board.
This is how every pick is ugly, Matt. Every pick is ugly this week. But yes, let me tell you, what do you think the public split is going to be on this game? What do you think the public? How much?
I think it'll get to 10, and then I think it just depends on how high the line will go. I think if we get over 11 or 12, I think you'll see buyback. But I think
you're going to see buy. I think what you're going to see, and I could be wrong. And you frankly. Because you've been out there so much, you have so much great insight. You understand it more. I think there's going to be a ton of public play on the Saints this week, and I don't think that line's going to move.
I think on the East Coast, you got to remember that in Vegas we have a lot of California people, so that tends to keep the California teams' lines to be a little bit in check.
Yep.
Because if you go double digits, just people here in Vegas are smart enough, and they're from California. A lot of them, they're going, you know what, the Niners are going to keep that game close. But my problem is they're going to have to run the football. Yep. And I think that's the one thing the Saints actually do a good job of stopping.
They do. No, they do. They do. I agree. But I think you're going to give this team off a nationally televised just absolute shellacking where they didn't have any. Matt, I do fantasy football for a living, and I barely could pick Richie James out of a lineup who had 170 yards, right, and a touchdown. Like, that's what they were looking at. Ayuk is a huge get to have back, as Agreed. Is I expect Kendrick Bourne, who I know people don't care. But it's fine. There was one game this week that I was going to push, and it was the Bucs. That's the only one I was going to basically lie in the mat for. There are no other games. So trust me, the fact that I chose this game next, it was only because I was like, this maybe fits into Matt's narrative. Maybe he'll go for it. So go ahead to your next one.
It's just ugly. Okay, so my next one is a number that I would prefer to go down to 3, but it's 3.5 for our contest, and I don't hate it at 3.5. Again, I would prefer it at 3, but I think the Houston Texans are done. And I think if you look at the weather, okay, so this is something
it's going to be bad.
Windy again, nasty and cold, okay, which is not Houston Texans weather.
Yep.
You can't throw the ball deep again, okay? So for the same logic that we took the Raiders to beat the Browns is the same logic I'm taking the Browns to win here, because you're going to get Nick Chubb back, looks like. So you have 2 running backs that are decent. And I don't think David Johnson's questionable for this game for the Texans. I don't think they can run the football all that well. Deshaun Watson might be their best running back in this game. I just think
give Duke Johnson some credit, Matt. Okay. Duke Johnson is fine, okay? He's perfectly
He's not going to beat the Browns by himself on the road, okay? 3, I'd rather the 3, but Cleveland minus 3.5, I think from a pick play. I don't know if I'll bet it. I might bet it, but from a pick play perspective, I like Cleveland to cover that 3.5-point line.
Yeah, I'm on the other side.
Wow. Explain to me the Texans play. A 2-6 football team. Explain this to me.
Okay. DVOA is not the be all end all, right? Of teams, of course, but it's natural. The Texans are a better team by DVOA than the Browns. I don't think the Browns are really that good of a football team here, Matt, especially when you're without Odell Beckham Jr. Now, I get they're going to get Chubb back. They're going to be able to run the ball, absolutely. But again, if you
believe in DVOA, then you know that the rushing defense for the Texans is one of the worst in the whole NFL.
The Browns can run on anybody, but I agree they're going to run.
They couldn't run on the Raiders. That's why I picked the Raiders. They couldn't run on the Raiders.
All right, that's fair. But with Chubb, who I do expect to be back here, they're going to be able to run with him and Hunt. No, Beckham, I think, is a bigger loss than kind of we're fully
right. But in this weather condition, he wouldn't be a factor anyway.
Yeah. I first of all, as far as I can tell, Matt, and you tell me what's the exact forecast, because this does not strike me
25 mile per hour winds.
Okay.
Which is the biggest issue of anything when it comes to
sustained 25 mile an hour winds?
Yeah. It's going to be cold. It's going to be windy. It's going to be like the same weather conditions as the last time we talked about the Browns with the Raiders, and we were all over the Raiders, and they won that game outright 16-6. Yeah. So I think the under is in play in this game majorly, and I think with the under in play, that favors the Browns.
Yeah, I don't know, man.
Texans defense is garbage.
You know what's funny? Matt? And if people listening to this, I don't know if they listen to our fantasy podcast. We did a DFS show today with Chris Raybon of the Action Network. Do you know Chris?
Oh, yeah, of course.
Chris is great. Legitimately, Matt, this was both of our, one of our better picks on the board. It randomly came up because we were talking about fantasy, and he was like, I like the Texans getting 3.5, and I was like, yes, I'm going to use this when I talk about it with Matt Perrault on our show today. The fact that Chris also likes them against them. I don't know, man. I think this is just going to be a close game. I agree that the wind is going to be bad. Deshaun Watson, though, can run, certainly. And I think Duke Johnson is just as good as David Johnson at this point in his career. I realize that he's never been given the rock to sort of do what he can do, but I do not view this as a downgrade. I think they can dump off the ball a lot. I think maybe, it's going to hamper the constant deep shots, but the Browns can't stop the pass, between Will Fuller and Brandon Cooks. I just view this as a very close game. If it was under a field goal, I might go for it, but with the hook, no, don't like it. Okay. Don't like it. So we're off. Okay. This is an ugly week. We know. Oh boy, you're going to hate this one. Ready? Let's go.
If I hated your first one, I might really hate your second one.
I had to think about it, Matt. My other one that I was going to bring up instead of my first one was the Texans getting 3.5. So you see where hold on. Let's actually see where our bet analyzer has this one. I just want to know exactly where it is because it strikes me. Oh, it is basically split. It's basically split at 3.5. It's 56% in favor of Houston. I am one of that 56% because I've already put in my pick here. Okay. You know what really feels like a great idea this week, Matt? Betting a team that doesn't know how to win and cannot win a single game no matter what they do against a team that's riding super, super high after 2 giant wins, and that is the Chargers.
There's no way you're taking the Chargers on the road against the Dolphins.
Chargers
there is no way
getting 2.5.
There is no way
from the Dolphins.
It's not even worth having this conversation right now. This is such a big problem for the Chargers when it comes to going on the road on the East Coast. And you could say, well, it's Anthony Lynn getting away from the public, getting away from the media, and they might be able to go and win a game like this. But against that defense, forget Tua, but against that defense, that's a scary game to go ahead. I love the Herbert, he wants to prove his draft pick against Tua angle. I love all that. But that defense for the Dolphins is legitimate.
The defense for the Dolphins is good. I agree. And because they're basically scoring defensive touchdowns and stuff like that. But they're not. I mean, first of all, Arizona should have won that game, for many reasons. But they outgained them significantly in yardage. I think the Dolphins have
the defense scores. I mean, when you get a defensive score in back-to-back weeks, you win most weeks. Like that's
okay.
In the
that's
NFL,
fine.
It's huge.
That's fine. Are you banking on a defensive score
maybe
in this game?
Maybe.
All right.
I'm not banking on it. I'm just saying it's possible. That's why I'm scared of the game because it's like, I mean, Herbert gets hit a lot. I mean, he's under pressure. I think he's like number 3 in the NFL right now in terms of passing under pressure. I mean, the dude is great, but he gets pressure because his offensive line doesn't block anybody.
Yeah, no, I understand. With Tua, look, without Preston Williams, okay, they've got Devontae Parker. I mean, Tua looked good, to be fair. He looked good. True. They rolled him out of the pocket. They let him use his legs a little bit. That was good. I just don't think – I mean, they have no running backs. I don't know which one of their 50, guy off the street running backs is going to be running the ball. I just don't trust them to be able to put up a ton of points. And look, I'm not gonna stand up there again. One game.
Dolphins are on my list, by the way. I have the Dolphins minus 2.5 on my list.
All right. Well, we're off to a rocky start then. Go to your next one. Hopefully, we find some games that we're at least on the same side of.
Okay. I don't like this number, but I'm gonna play it anyway because I think there's a chance they win the game outright. Big Ben's on schedule to play for the Pittsburgh Steelers. That's great news for me. I like the Bengals plus 6.5 to potentially win this game outright. I think this is an interesting matchup, and the Bengals match up better. And
wait, did you say it's good news for you that Ben is going to play?
Yes. Ben Roethlisberger's not playing well at all. His numbers
you think it's better for the Bengals if Ben plays than Mason Rudolph?
Yeah, because I think in terms of the way that they'll approach the game, I think with Rudolph, they'll be more conservative. They'll run the football more. The defense will know they have to play better. I just think that this is a chance here for this. I think they could win the game outright, but if not, they'll keep the game close. I would prefer 7, but I'll take the 6.5 points here, and I'll take the Bengals.
All right, so I guess what I will say is I don't despise this pick. Like I'm gonna put it on the maybe list for sure, and especially given where we are, it's probably getting in there. I would agree that I would prefer it at 7. I do like fading the Steelers because I don't think that the Steelers are nearly as good as what they've shown now, especially without Devin Bush. I don't think the defense is that good. Although, are they going to have Williamson from the Jets? If he is, he's going to help the defense. But does it matter to you if Mixon plays here? Because it sounds like maybe he won't even off the bye.
It doesn't because I'm betting on Joe Burrow.
Okay. Yeah, I mean, I would like it at 7. I'd like it at 7, but I think I'm on the right side. I think
it's 7 in every other contest. That's why it pissed me off. I got mad at that. I was like, it's 7 in both the Circa and in the Westgate. It's 7, 6.5 in ours. I'm gonna take it anyway, but I don't like the 6.5. I'll prefer the 7. It's why it's on my. It would be if it was 7, it would be my number 1 pick. But I mean,
this strikes me as the Bengals finding a way to cover at the end of the game. I don't think they're going to win it outright, but yeah. All right, I'll put in the maybe, but given where we are, the most likely yes, because I do think that's the right side. At 58%, by the way, of people on the Bengals in our bet analyzer. For the Dolphins, by the way, since I didn't say it, 65% are on the wrong side and on the Dolphins. So I'll just get that out there. All right, let's keep getting ugly then, Matt. Let's get really ugly. This is actually an interesting one because you make a lot of money off the Bills. How do you feel about the Cardinals laying the 2.5 to the Bills?
I think it's the right side. I'm just petrified of it. I don't like Josh Allen. I had a long conversation with somebody from Pro Football Focus on my radio show today who was arguing the other side, who was arguing the Bills. Yeah. And I was arguing the Cardinals. And just matchup wise, he thinks that because of the man-to-man defense of the Cardinals play in their secondary, they're going to have a real tough time stopping the wide receivers. with pristine conditions for Buffalo, and this factors in better for the Bills because they play a warm weather style of football more than a cold weather style of football.
They do, yeah.
So they're in Arizona, they're in the Dome, and they're against that defense that does give up big yards in the pass play. So I'm with you on the Cardinals. So if you want to take the Cardinals, I'm okay with it. I just have some people who are telling me that we're on the wrong side.
Yeah, okay. I'm gonna put it in the maybe category. I don't love any games anymore, but I think that it's the right side here. I think again, it's a little bit of a just kind of the very basic buy low, sell high. I think the public is probably gonna like the Bills here after they destroyed the Seahawks in that game. The Cardinals had that horrible loss to the Dolphins, which again they could have very easily won. I think the Bills traveling cross country, home field advantage doesn't mean anything really anymore, but I do think cross country trips, and you brought up the fair point about the Chargers coming cross country, and again harder west to go east, but still it is something where I think off that win it's a decent time to sell the Bills, but I don't feel great about it, so we'll put it in the maybe category on the Cardinals. All right, you got anything else that you're remotely feeling?
One more game.
Okay.
And this is horrible.
Yes.
Just going to tell you this. This is my last on my list. It's a play that even I don't like, but it's a numbers play. Patriots in primetime catching 7.5 points against the Ravens.
Oh, goodness.
Here's the
all
thought.
Right, go ahead.
Here's the
Go
thought. Okay, the thought is this. Lamar Jackson against Bill Belichick defenses has done pretty much nothing. Okay? Belichick has his number figured out. Even if Gilmore doesn't play, he didn't practice today, but even if Gilmore doesn't play, I'm not really all that worried about it. The biggest question I've got is whether or not the Patriots can move the football against the Ravens defense. But if that's my question, getting 7.5 means there's a chance the Patriots are in this game, and it's a chance that they have an opportunity to maybe have, a 6-point loss. It's a 27-21 type of loss here at home to the Ravens. The Ravens don't blow out anybody. And Lamar Jackson, I'm going to trust Belichick to have a defensive scheme enough that they don't give up big plays in the run game and they make him throw. And as we know, when he has to throw, he's not done very well this season. So it's a bet on Belichick. It's a bet on their defense, not really their offense. But give me the 7.5. I'll take the Patriots in primetime.
Was that the same defense that let Joe Flacco throw 3 touchdown passes?
Yeah, but Stephon Gilmore wasn't there. And arguably you could make a case that Flacco's a much better passer than Lamar Jackson.
Okay.
I mean, would you argue that point? Would you, if you had to throw a pass for your life and you had Lamar Jackson throwing or Joe Flacco throwing, who would you take?
I think I just, make sure my will was
written
out there.
You take Joe Flacco any day of the week and you know it, okay? Joe Flacco may be not Mr. Elite, but Joe Flacco can throw the football a heck of a lot better than Lamar Jackson can.
Regardless. And again, we don't know if Gilmore is going to play here anyway, because that was one of your points. But even if it doesn't really matter, because whether it's not as if you're like, oh God, what are they going to take away Hollywood Brown? Hollywood Brown hasn't been involved in 3 games or whatever. Yeah. I get sort of the theory of it, but man, Matt, watching that team on Monday night just look absolutely ridiculous. Like if you're the Ravens and you're defending this team, what are you worried about? Maybe you double team Jacoby Myers if you absolutely have to, and you just guard against the run. What in the world? How are they going to move the ball? How are they going to put up any points?
Cam. That's the only that you have to let Cam go off, and you have to let Cam run the football. And I think that this team is going to have a game plan like they do every week, where everyone goes, "How are the Patriots going to do it?" And then they do it. and then Belichick is like, oh, that's right, it's Belichick.
Yeah,
I'm not saying they're going to win the game. I'm just saying that the hook there is a big deal to me. 7.5 is a big deal to me.
Yeah, man. I don't know. Let me check the bet analyzer. Let me see where everybody's at, just to know where we are. 68% on the Ravens. At 7 without the hook. The hook. So
see, the hook matters to me. 7.5 matters to me.
I would just like it on the record that you crushed me for going after the 49ers and you're willing to go with the Patriots.
Yep, because wait, how many rings does Shanahan have? Oh, right.
Man,
right.
We on the Belichick? Are we going to have to debate?
Okay.
Look, Belichick has
what happened in the biggest game of his life last year? What happened? Oh,
Belichick has.
Oh, right. I forgot he lost that game. Okay, right.
Belichick has the same number of rings that he had on Monday night when he nearly let one of the historically bad teams
Yeah, but
in
you're a
the
Jets
National
fan.
Football
You know
League.
what the Jets do against the Patriots.
Oh,
you know
dude.
that. You know what the rivalry is like between those two franchises. Come on.
You need to stop making excuses. This
Look,
is
the Patriots are
Adam
not a
Gase
very
coach.
good team. I'm not debating that point. I'm just talking about this from a point spread perspective. I'm
Man.
not talking about winning and losing here. I'm talking about keeping it within 7 points. There's a big difference
Well,
there.
to be as fair as possible, I don't have a lean at all on this game. I guess to be fair, because you're not wrong. We were switched to the Ravens last week, and for a while that looked like the wrong side. And maybe if Jonathan Taylor doesn't fumble early like that and kind of change the entire tenor of the game, although Gus Edwards fumbled on the goal line as well, so maybe not. But yeah, that game didn't look good. And the Ravens, did you tweet out that the Ravens offense is broken or something? Somebody tweeted out.
I think it is broken, personally.
Yeah, I think you might have tweeted that out.
During
Somebody
the game,
did.
it looked broken. It is
I know,
broken.
that's what I mean. During the game,
they just can't do anything. I mean, look, the Colts defense. We'll see it tonight. Colts defense is good. It's on paper. It's paper good. And Lamar Jackson made them look like the steel curtain.
Yeah. All right, let's keep talking about every other game here and just see whether or not we get to anywhere that we like. Because right now we're legitimately looking at one game that we like, maybe two games that we don't absolutely despise, and then everything else is kind of up in the air. So let's just talk through each of the games. I'm not giving you a side when I list. I'm just going to list the favorite first. So don't take from it that I'm asking for a side. How do you feel about the Rams laying 1.5 points to the Seahawks in Los Angeles?
It's just a tough bounce back spot because I think Seattle, they turned the ball over so many times last week. I think they're angry about it. I'm just concerned if that, four-leaf clover is going to wilt there for Seattle with how many games they've won on the last seconds and, getting to all the breaks. Is it now going to go against them and they're going to start to cough the football up and turn the football over and come back down to earth? So, I mean, I like Seattle. I think Seattle's the right side in that game, but I'm concerned about it.
I actually think the Rams might be the right side here.
Okay.
And I think really what it is that I'm no longer scared to go against the Seahawks because that defense is historically bad.
Yeah.
Historically bad. And, Cooper Kupp's a little banged up in this game. And the Rams are, but I don't think Jalen Ramsey can necessarily shut down DK Metcalf, but they do. The Rams are a really good defense and they're underrated a bit. And you're giving McVay 2 weeks to prepare for this.
The Rams are my pick to win the division. So if you wanted to have this be one of our picks, I wouldn't fight you on it because I'm concerned about what happened last week.
Yeah.
If Seattle doesn't turn the football over, it turns into a shootout, and then I'm trusting Jared Goff to be in a shootout, which is like, uh-oh. But you're right. The Rams' defense is tremendous. It's the strength of their defense. It's the strength of their team. And if they can get a lead and then keep the ball away from Russ, then the recipe's there for a Rams victory.
Yeah. All right, let's put it on the maybe gross list. How about the Bears laying 2.5 points to the Vikings in Chicago on Monday Night Football?
So the stat is this. Going into tonight, which it factors in, teams who are playing at home against divisional opponents that are catching points are 12-1 against the spread.
Yep.
So the Bears factor into this.
Yep.
So if I was going to take a play, not that I'm going to go strictly on a trend, but I think it's a decent trend to look at, I would take the Bears at home against the Vikings because I don't think the Vikings can do much else besides Dalvin Cook, and the Bears probably can take him away.
By the way, I said that wrong. I apologize. The Bears are getting 2.5 points, not laying 2.5 points.
Yeah, right. But
I said it wrong. I'm just saying for the listeners.
Yeah,
you knew it. You knew it correctly. Yeah, I kind of don't mind the Bears here, Matt.
Yeah.
I'd like David Montgomery to play. We don't know because he's got the concussion. But Kirk Cousins, especially, in prime time in Chicago, I don't know. I kind of like it. It's gross because I don't want to really back any. And I've been fading the Bears quite a bit, but I do think that they're going to be able to keep this close and probably win it in the end. The Vikings just are not a good team. Their secondary is not good. Nick Foles is willing to take shots. Mooney's kind of coming into his own a little bit. I'd be willing to take the Bears here. If you came in and said I like the Bears, I'd be willing to do it. But
in prime time, I don't mind it. I hate Nick Foles. I hate Nick Foles.
Yeah. All right. Let's put it on the maybe list then. We've got nonstop maybes going on. I love it. Okay. Hold on.
What haven't we talked about yet? Philly and New York and Jacksonville and Green Bay.
And the Lions. Let's get to Philly and New York. The Eagles are laying 3.5. Pardon me, 3.5 to the Giants in New York. By the way, with the Bills and the Bears and the Vikings, 58% in our bet analyzer are on the Vikings, just so everybody knows. Okay, so yeah, what do you think? The Eagles laying 3.5 to the Giants in New York.
This same conversation in the last time. It's a home dog in division. Give me Giants plus 3.5. If I'm betting the game, it's Giants plus 3.5 all day over the Eagles.
That's how I feel too. Like, I don't love it by any means.
Right.
But that's how I feel. If you're giving me, if I had any confidence in Daniel Jones at all to just not bungle it up completely and blow the game at like the last minute, I would take them to keep it close. I think people are going to be like, Eagles off a bye, here they come, blah, blah, blah. And I think you're just going to still be like, why is Carson Wentz holding the ball for 8 seconds and throwing it off his back foot into triple coverage? So another game where I'll put in the maybe list. I mean, the Giants getting 3.5, whatever. I mean, give us some fun here. This is gross.
Hook matters there to me.
Yeah, the hook matters, exactly. Okay, let's go to the next game. The Lions laying 4.5 to Washington.
I hate this game so much.
Yes.
There's nothing in this game I like. There is no way you can convince me to take a side in this game besides just taking the points because both teams are horrible. So if I had to bet it, I'd take the Washington team. But I just absolutely hate this game.
You couldn't force me to take this game. Legitimately, under any circumstances. I don't have a single feeling about this game other than run away. Packers laying 13.5. Goodness, I'm so sorry. Packers laying 13.5 to the Jaguars. Before you do, hold on. I do want to see if our bet analyzer is where it looks at right now in that game. No, that is legitimately the most even split game on everybody. I bet you it's also going to be the least bet game of the weekend because nobody wants to go there. But it's 54%, if anybody cares, is backing the Washington football team laying 4.5. Anyway, the Packers laying 13.5 to the Jaguars in Green Bay.
I mean, this is the ultimate professional bet, okay? Professionals are going to lay 13.5 just blindly, right? Just blindly because it's 13.5 points in the NFL, and they pay their players too. But I don't know how in the world you could take Jacksonville on the same level. I don't know how you lay nearly 2 touchdowns at home for this Packers team. I just don't trust either one of these teams to cover. So if I had to bet it, I would say Green Bay based on quarterback play. But no way would I ever take it.
Yeah. There's wind in this game as well, I believe. This is the other wind game. I think there were 2. I believe this was the other one. I could be wrong. Cool. But yeah, like I don't know. I did not learn anything about Jake Luton last week. Like he
played. Can throw.
I
don't know how much you saw him in college, but that kid can throw a football.
He can throw. He can throw. And if although he doesn't move all that well, that was a nifty spin move to get into the end zone there against the Texans, but it was the Texans defense.
True.
I have no idea what he's going to look like in Lambeau against a rested Packers defense. So really not a game I want to trust on either side. I think the only game that we haven't talked about is the Broncos getting 5.5 from the Raiders in Las Vegas. It's 5.5, so I know you hate the Raiders.
This is one of my bets of the week for the Daily Juice. I've already bet it.
Oh.
The over in this game is going to hit. Okay, the over is 50. I have no idea why the number is 50. It is bizarre to me why this number is so low. Yeah. Denver is not going to get any. The Raiders aren't going to get any pressure on Drew Lock.
Yep.
And the one thing that Drew Lock can do is throw with a clean pocket, like most quarterbacks can. The Raiders, on the other hand, are going to run the ball and throw the ball deep. I think Ruggs has a monster game. I think you'll see Waller have a monster game. I just think points in this game. I hate the 5.5 point number, so I won't go near it. But if I had to lay it, I would lay it with Vegas.
Yeah, I don't have a great feel for it. To be fair, I don't. I think I agree with the over, but I don't love it. Meanwhile, the consensus spread is down to 4, which is interesting. I think if I had to go on one side, I might go with the Broncos just to cover, do like a backdoor cover. Because that's,
possible.
I mean, right? If the Raiders get up ahead, Drew Lock's just going to go absolutely insane and just start throwing nonstop.
I think it's a 30-27 type of game, one way or the other. So I think there's 50. I think it gets through 50 pretty easily. So that's why I prefer the over in this game than a side.
All right, let's get really gross and talk about where we are. So here's what I'm going to do. We know we're taking the Bucs laying 4.5 to the Panthers.
Yep.
I'm going to add in the Bengals getting 6.5 from Pittsburgh because that was like the least yuck I could get to. And we were on the right side. Okay, hold on. Let me just write it in. Okay. So these are the other games, Matt, and you can let me know if I've missed one. These were the other games where we weren't like essentially on different sides, which means we'd have to pick 3 of these gross 4 games. the Cardinals laying 2.5 to the Bills, the Rams laying 1.5 to the Seahawks, the Bears getting 2.5 from the Vikings, and the Giants getting 3.5 from the Eagles.
Rams, Bears, Giants.
Rams, Bears, Giants. I am okay with that, actually. And if I am going to be as transparent as possible, all three of those were in my list of I can live with this. That's where they were. They were all in my list. The Rams laying 1.5 to the Seahawks, the Bears getting 2.5 points from the Vikings, and the Giants getting 3.5 points from the Eagles. I like the Giants with the hook. I think the Bears are going to win outright, and I think the Rams are going to win outright. So that's where we are. I feel pretty gross about it, which means it's probably a 5-0 week. But I
like
you know,
points. I mean, at this point in the year, I start to like points because the public starts getting all wacky with favorites and they start betting on laying points. And I like taking points. But week 10 on, I like taking short favorites and points.
Yep. All right. Well, those of you who are listening can understand that I am taking the Texans getting 3.5 myself. I have already bet this. The Texans getting 3.5 and the 49ers getting 9.5. So that is how gross it's going to be right now for this weekend. Okay. Good enough. Good enough for me. Everybody make sure you are listening to the Daily Juice podcast, which is Matt's daily podcast. It is, I dare say it, the greatest podcast in the world. I really love it. It's every day. It's fantastic. Matt does a great job breaking down pretty much every single sport. Again, bettingpros.com/chat. Join our Discord channel and our workspace or whatever you call it at this point. And again, you can win a signed A.J. Brown Titans helmet. Hopefully he has a big game tonight because I need him. And also don't forget that you can check out our cheat sheet creator. Is that what we call it? What do we call it? Our
bet cheat sheet.
Prop bet cheat sheet. I'm still learning the name. Over at bettingpros.com/props. And we'll be back next week breaking down the week 11 straight, hopefully after a big week. We'll talk to you then.